Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Creative Naturally podcast. My name is Bex and so lovely to be with you. You can find me on Ravelry as Rebecca SJS and you can find me on Instagram as Bex_in_real_life. Those are the main places that I post about my knitting and crafty adventures. Show notes for this podcast and also articles and interviews can be found on my blog, which is www.creativenaturally.wordpress.com, and there'll be all of this information in the down bar below. So lovely to be with you guys again. It's been, I think, maybe 2 weeks, around about 2 weeks since I last put up a podcast, and in that time there's been a lot of changes happening. After my last podcast, episode 13, I packed up all of my things from our shared house in Caulfield, and my partner Tom and I moved up to his parents' property again in the Strathbogie Ranges in rural Victoria in Australia. If I can, I will have already posted a video at the beginning of this podcast to show you where I'm living, and it's just stunning. It's so beautiful. Tom and his family are a homeschooling family, so they all didn't go to school, and the whole land is just set up for free roaming kids, I'd call it. There's chickens and loads of space, and there's a big paddock with a trampoline, which is going a bit rusty now, and just so much produce. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to see all the produce that I've been picking recently. We're coming into spring here. It's been very, very wet. There's been a lot of flooding around us. We're on the tablelands, so though it's really sodden and wet, we're not dealing with the same kind of flooding that they are down in the valleys. But yeah, it's beautiful here, and we're getting more sunny days now. The last week and a half, I think, that we've been here, we've had a lot of rainy days, a lot of thunderstorms, but also some really intense sunshine, and it's been beautiful. The garden is just exploding. So behind the camera and around to my side, just here, this is all garden that I can see. And I've just let the chickens out, so they're free roaming at the moment, and they're very happy about it. So if I have to stop the video and go and shoo them out of the garden to stop them eating the vegetables, that's what I'm going to do. But anyway, yeah, so it's been a massive change of lifestyle the last couple of weeks, and one that I've been really excited about. This will be our home base for the foreseeable future. So Tom and I have some travels planned between February, kind of end of January, early February through till probably around about June. We'll be out of the country. We'll be going to India and the UK and Sweden. And then when we come back, Tom might well be going to Canada as well, and I'm not 100% sure whether or not I'll go with him or if I'll stay here, or what my plans are. And then we'll be kind of our next big life goal is to build a tiny house, which we'll be building up here in Ruffy. So all very exciting and kind of moving the next move along really, which is super cool, very exciting indeed. So yeah, that's what I've been up to the last couple of weeks. I've been busy. I've started my work at the Cherry Shed again, which is why we come up here in the spring and summertime. My partner Tom runs humongous grading software for the cherry harvest that happens in rural Victoria, and runs only for around about 8 weeks. So it's 8 intense weeks of work, but we've come up a bit early to do some prep work. So I have been cleaning a packing shed during my days, very unglam, and Tom has been building a grader and then we've been coming back and being more countrified, which has been really nice and relaxing. So yeah, I've managed to get some knitting done, and I've got a fair amount to show you today. I feel like I've been doing lots of knitting on a small number of projects, which is actually really enjoyable. I feel like I've made some serious progress, despite the fact that I've been quite busy. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 things to show you that I've been working on, and 3 things. No, 3 things to show you that I've been working on, and then a little bit of a topic at the end of the podcast. So let me begin. I am drinking out of my beautiful Denby pottery mug, which if you guys aren't English, you might not know about Denby pottery, but it's quite a famous UK pottery based in, I think, Derbyshire, close to where my parents live anyway. We used to go there when I was a kid, and I actually made a pot while I was there when I was younger, that my mum still has. And Tom's parents bought me this beautiful Denby pottery mug and got it shipped out to Australia for me, which was so sweet. And inside I have got just a sprig of fresh peppermint, and it's made the hot water go really crazy green, but it's really yummy. And yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm wearing. I shared this finished object in my last podcast episode. This is my Stasis pullover, which is a pattern by Layla Raab, which is a Brooklyn tweed pattern. They produced it and published it. I'll stand up so you can see. Here we go. So it's got this amazing bands of colour work on the arms, the cuffs, and also the yoke. And I made this out of Ella Rae Lace Merino for the main colour here, which is this beautiful kind of dusty plum tone. Which is one of my favourite colours. And the contrasting colour is Morris & Sons Empire 4-ply, which is a superwash merino in the school grey colourway. And those 2 colours together I just love. So beautiful. And it's fluffed up a bit, which I actually really like. It's really beautiful, and it's very, very soft. A little bit about this pattern. I made some adjustments. I extended the body a little bit, and I also extended the arms a little bit. It was a little bit of a learning curve for me. It was my first garment, I think, with colour work. So this cuff was the first part of the garment that I made. I cast on at the cuff and worked up, and this cuff is significantly tighter than this one. I don't know if you can see, but there's a lot more flex in this cuff than this one, which I can actually feel when I'm wearing it, but it doesn't bother me that much. Not enough to rip it out anyway. And what other quirks? Oh yeah, so my gauge was a little bit bigger, and I didn't think that was going to be much of a problem, and it isn't really. However, I ran out of space before the cast off here to do the short rows at the back. So the pattern, which I'm really glad it does for this reason really, has short rows at the back of the neck, so that the back neck is higher than the front neck. Now, for most people's that had used, I think it was Brooklyn Tweed Loft they suggested, that would have worked really well. However, I ran out of space here, so I think my gauge had loosened quite a lot, and so I ended up stopping before the short row section that the pattern called for. And I think, can you see how when I naturally sit, it kind of cuts just there, like it's loose, but it's enough to annoy me. So I think I haven't been wearing it that much, and I think that's why. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to rip back maybe ½ an inch and drop the ribbing down so that it sits lower all the way around. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that would be really nice. I might even just start the ribbing directly above the colourwork section. I'll let you know how that goes. Might well do that today. So yes, that's what I'm wearing. I'll take a little sip. Now I've been working on 3 projects mainly. One of them you've seen before, so I will start with that one. This is living in my little handmade project bag. And this is, sorry, if you see me glancing down here, I've got my show notes. This is the Dance Lightly shawl by Bunny Muff, who is a Ravelry designer. And I am using this beautiful Manos del Uruguay Fino in the Inkwell colourway, which is just the most stunning kind of cornflowery, bluey, purpley grey. It's got so many different tones in there. And yeah, I've made a fair amount of progress on this actually since I last chatted about it. You can see my little progress keeper there. So I've done, I think, 3 or 4 lace repeats on this. It's lace on the front and the back, and there's 16 rows. So it's not something that I can get into a rhythm with at all. I'm not that good at lace knitting to be able to memorise that kind of thing. So it's very much a sit down in front of the fire and knit on it. So since I've been in Ruffy, it's had a lot more work done on it. Just because we've got such slow internet here that the expensive internet that we buy is quite expensive, so I have to really pick and choose what podcasts and things I want to watch online, which means that there's more knitting without watching at the same time. So this, there we go, you can see that better there. This is the lace edging. It's very, very beautiful, and it's got this really amazing kind of section on the edge as well. I know it's just going to sit really beautifully. Very excited about it, and you can pretty much just go until the yarn is finished up, which is what I really like about this pattern. It's a asymmetrical triangular pattern. It just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So there's 450 meters on the Fino. It's a very light fingering weight, kind of about 3 ply, I would call it. And so I'm just going to keep on going, and it's going to be a long process, but I'm really enjoying it, and it's a nice project just to have and pick up from time to time. So yeah, excited to see this one grow. And I'm actually knitting this on the Knit Pro Symphonies, which is different for me. I usually knit on Higher Hires or Knit Pro Novas, which are metal, and I like the slipperiness. However, the Fino is very slippery. It's a 30% silk, 70% extra fine merino, and it's slippery as, so it's really nice just to have a little bit more grip. These Symphonies have got a lacquer over the top. We sell them at Morris & Sons, which is where I worked until a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, they're one of the best-selling varieties of Knit Pros for good reason. And they're a lot more delicate than the Novas. They're the kind of reasonably easy to break, so keep that in mind. And yeah, so that's what I've been working on, little bits and bobs. I haven't put so much effort into that one, but it's definitely grown since I last saw you. And I found a little technique for keeping my place. Can you see? I don't know if you can see this. So one of the main reasons why I actually have done more work on, sorry, I'm just going to move my screen, there we go. One of the reasons why I've put a fair bit more work into this is because I've actually copied down the lace repeats. See that fun? And off of my computer, because I hadn't printed out the pattern. and I found that good old scrap piece of paper and a peg works really well for keeping my place, which is handy because I can kind of sort of read where I am, but not enough that I wouldn't have to rip back, I don't think, and I don't want to do that with lace. So yeah, I'm really happy with how that's coming along. Pop my little pattern back in there. Checking that the chickens haven't gone into the garden. So, the next project you guys have not seen before, and this is one that just exploded off of my needles. It's so funny, I just got a real bug to knit with this yarn that I had bought from an amazing hand dyer here in Australia. I think she's from Victoria actually, called Dyed by Hand, and she uses Australian fibres and does the most amazing colours. So I went to Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show and I picked up a 150 gram skein of her Blueface Leicester fingering weight, and it's been staring at me for long enough, so I decided that I was going to cast on with it. And this was heavily inspired, this is another handmade project bag. This was heavily inspired by Katie of Inside Number 23 and her amazing podcast, because she is, or well, when I had cast it on, she was talking about casting on The Risen by Melanie Berg. And the reason that she'd chosen The Risen was because the band is knit at the same time as the main body and the sleeves, and that way she had a gradient set that she wanted to use, and it would have been a lot easier for her to make a cardigan with a band that way than using the featherweight cardigan, for instance, which is a Hanafetig pattern, which is quite similar shape. But then the band is an afterthought, so you do that at the end, you pick up around the edge and then you knit out, which would have been a lot more difficult with a gradient set and getting the colours to work. Impossible, I think, in fact. So yeah, as soon as she showed this pattern, I just fell in love. And I have done a ton of work on this. I'm kind of shocked myself. So this amazing yarn is, again, it's Blueface Leicester, and it's her turmeric colourway by the indie dyer Dyed by Hand, an Australian dyer, and it's kind of going a bit greenier than it is. Let's put it away again and the colour will reset. It's very orangey, mustardy yellow, kind of egg yolk, I'd call it, but on the mustard side. It's definitely blowing the camera out a little bit. The thing that I really love about this pattern is, can you see this amazing texture? So this is done as I work the main body. So it's very, very clever. So you start at the back neck here. But this texture is just amazing and it sits so beautifully. I know that it's going to lose the little roll that it has as soon as it's blocked. It's really quite sturdy. And yeah, so it's just a raglan cardie, quite wide opening, with this really beautiful decorative rib on the cuff. And yeah, I've done one sleeve, and then I'm on the other sleeve, I'm almost at the cuff. I've got about another 2 inches, I'd say 1 to 2 inches, and then the cuff. And I've done maybe 3 inches of the body underneath the arm, and that's how much yarn I've got left. So again, 150 grams, I think 605 meters was the total. And my intention to begin with was to try and get a cropped cardigan out of that. My featherweight was 640 meters of Jamieson's of Shetland Spindrift, which is a full ply. And yeah, so it's quite a cropped cardie, but it kind of hits my natural waist. I'm gonna see how far I go with this. I've already checked with the yarn dyer to see if I can definitely get another skein of this, which I can, which is amazing. So I have that in the pipeline, but I'm gonna see how far I can go with this. I have a feeling that, so this took about 25 to 30 grams for this sleeve, and it's a 3/4 length sleeve, and the same with the other one, and I should have about 20 or 25 grams left to extend the body. Which I am presuming won't be enough, but I will see. Now, if I get another skein, I think that I will do a longer cardigan, but there's a possibility also that I might just extend it so it's kind of a really comfortable cropped size, so it would work really nicely with dresses, and then make a shawl out of the rest of it. But undecided as of yet. So potential for buying another skein, 150 gram skein, which I'm happy about. That's totally fine. I don't mind spending the money. But we shall see. We might get it out of 150 grams. But yeah, it's pretty amazing to see what you can get out of 150 grams of fingering weight. That's just amazing. 600 meters. And, you know, it's quite a tight gauge as well. This is on 3.5 mil needles, I think. Yeah, 3.5 mil needles. And I was knitting these on my higher interchangeables, but I went into my old work and picked up an extra pair of 3.5 mil Novas because of the next project that I'm working on, which has stolen my higher. So yeah, I think I will probably finish the sleeve today, and this and the shawl are pretty much the only things I'm going to be knitting on for the next couple of days at least. So I'm really in love with this. I think it's going to be a really beautiful garment, and it's surprisingly knit up really fast. I cast this on about maybe 2 days after my podcast, my last podcast. So it's probably about a week and a half's worth of work maximum. Kind of solid work. I wasn't knitting on much else. But yeah, so that's my Risen by Melanie Berg, which is an amazing pattern. I really recommend it. I think I'm going to make another one soon. Pop you back in there. And what else have I got to show you? So, my final project that I've been working on has been really, really exciting. It's my first mystery knit along. It's my first Stephen West design, and totally out of my comfort zone, which is really good fun. So the mystery knit along and the first clue came last Friday evening, Australia time. And I only decided that I was going to join the mystery knit along the evening of Thursday. So I stashed over and found 4 beautiful yarns that worked surprisingly really amazing together. So this is all stash yarn that I've been making this project out of. And the mystery knit along is Stephen West's new pattern, which is building blocks. And yeah, having never done a mystery knit along before, I didn't even really know how it worked. And the way that Stephen runs it anyway is that he has 4 separate clues, and then there's a week between each clue. And each clue has got, I think, well, the first clue anyway had 4 different sections. So I will show you first the yarns that I am making, and it's quite funny because you're going to see my favourite colour at the moment, obviously. It's quite funny. So I decided to go for something very un-Stephen West, which is actually really quite kind of gradient tones, not much speckling. Stephen West is really renowned for very bright neon tones and loads of texture and colour, and is really out there, and that's not something that I will wear. I know what I'm like. I have my favourite colours, and I'm definitely more on the earthy side of things, and so I really wanted to have a go at one of his patterns but also incorporate colours that I know I will wear. So the colours that I stashed dough for are these beautiful guys, which are super, super amazing together. So these two here are Knit Picks, sorry. This one is Knit Picks Stroll, that I got for free from my friend Sophie. And this one here was also from Sophie, and this is Knit Picks Preciosa. They gave this to her as a free skein in an order that she purchased. So this one is a sock yarn, so Knit Picks Stroll, and this one is a 4-ply single fingering weight, so it's it's not plied. And these guys here were also Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show yarns. This one here is by Kathy's Fibre. I think I've got the tag in here. Let's have a look. Maybe I was clever. Yes, I was. Okay. So this one here is Kathy's Fibre. There we are. kathysfibres.com, and it is a superwash merino fingering single ply, and this is her Desert Plum colourway, and there's 365 meters per 100 grams. This is the first skein that I try and block the sun a little bit. There you go. This is the first skein that I bought at Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show in July, and I fell in love with it immediately. My plan was to do a whole circuit and then buy things, and this was in my bag straight away. It's got really amazing tones to it. I don't know if you can see there. There you go. Plums to really light heathered kind of pinks. Just stunning. And yeah, I also purchased this yarn here, which was actually a sale yarn that this was the last skein that I purchased at Bendigo. So I had like $23 left or something out of my $200 budget that I'd given myself. And this one here was a sales yarn. It's got some kind of patches of quite almost kind of vibrant pink mixed in with the quite deep plum. You can kind of see there, which has this beautiful speckled effect, but I imagine is why it was reduced in price. And this is by another Australian dyer from Newcastle, and that's Pirate Pearl Yarns, who's actually got quite a big Instagram presence, I think. Pirate Pearl Yarns, and this is her Mulberries and Cream, and it's a Blue Face Leicester nylon blend, 4-ply 100 grams, and this is a 365 meter skein. So I'm really happy with how these guys all look together. And I had absolutely no idea how they would kind of play together within the pattern, so I basically just chose my two favourite colours, which I put down as this one and this one, because they're the hand-dyed, kind of not mass-produced ones that I got from Bendy. And yeah, Stephen just suggested just to pick your two favourite colours, so I did, and I will show you what it looks like so far. So the main thing I was concerned with the Stephen West was I really wanted it to be a wearable piece. And when I first started working on the Building Blocks Cal, I was a bit nervous that it wasn't going to be so wearable, even though he says that it is a wearable piece. Yeah, I was just a little bit nervous about that. Make sure I've got the right side. But this is where we're at so far. It's super, super amazing. So this is, I'll show you. This is section 1, just here. Section 2, section 3, and section 4. And section 2 and section 4 are basically the same, just with more stitches on the needles. So beautiful. So lots of striping, lots of kind of geometric shapes. And I'm really hoping that it's going to sit this way, so with the points down. When I first started, it kind of looked like it was going to be some kind of interesting cape, almost, because it's got this kind of collar aspect at the back. but we shall see. I'm hoping it's going to be kind of like a winged shawl almost. But yeah, it's really, really beautiful, and I love how the colours are playing together. Really amazing. And yeah, all of the tones are different enough that you can kind of pick them up, which is lovely. These two here are the ones I was quite nervous about not being kind of different enough, and they're working really beautifully. So can you tell that I like plums? And yes, so the construction wise, it's really interesting. It's got I-cord edging all the way around. Lots of ends to weave in that I've just woven in. I think there were maybe 12 ends or something like that in this section. So I'm weaving in as I go after each clue, so it's not too much of a big deal. Just got my end, my final end just there. And yeah, really excited about it. It's so much fun. I can totally see the excitement around Mystery Knits and really like not being in control and not knowing how it's going to work, and really just having to concentrate on the colours and the pattern. And yeah, it's really good fun. I've been following along on all the different ones that people are making in the Ravelry group, and there's just so many different colours. Does look a little bit like the female reproductive system. Fallopian tubes and such. But yeah, I'm really happy with it so far. I think it's going to be really good fun. And I've got another 2 days. So it's Wednesday morning at the moment, and I've got until Friday evening before the next clue comes. So enough time to concentrate on my Risen for a little bit longer before I start concentrating on this one again. So if you haven't checked out Stephen West, I'd be amazed if you haven't, but if you haven't, then go and check him out on Ravelry. He's got some just incredible patterns that are so interesting, and his construction is really cool. You can tell he tackles knitting with a real kind of computer programmer kind of mindset, where it's very construction based and it's very technical, and he's very in-depth with the patterns, so they're very easy to follow. Like for instance, each section of that had a different video that was connected to it to show you how to do the different sections. So yeah, he's a really enjoyable designer to purchase from. So in this next section, I'd love to chat with you guys about something that's really inspiring me at the moment. There is an Instagram feed, I guess you'd call it, called @SlowFashionOctober. It's been set up by Karen Templar, and I think it started last year, and it's going again through the month of October this year. And Karen is basically inspiring people and telling people stories and getting people to share about their kind of slow fashion experience and handmade garments, knitted, sewn. At the moment this week, she is kind of setting up the conversation of like heirloom pieces that we love from family members or things that we've picked up secondhand, just pieces that we've made that we've had for years and that we really love, and kind of just supporting people to reprogram into slower fashion, so not being so taken over by mass-produced companies, just the enjoyment and the care that goes into making your own clothes or making clothes for others. And this has been so inspiring for me because especially when I live in the city, I get so sucked into feeling like I need to purchase lots of clothing. Like I love garments, I love clothes, I always have done. And I get bored quite quickly with the garments that I have, and a lot of the time the garments that I have aren't 100% what I am after. They're things I've picked up kind of really quickly without really thinking about whether or not I will wear them lots, or if it's just like I've seen it on somebody else and so I like it. I don't know if it kind of suits me so much, if you get what I mean, which I think is really common. I don't think I'm alone in that one. But especially with the move to Ruffy, to the countryside here, I've just noticed this kind of want to get back to deciding my own style, and not being so pulled by what I think looks nice on other people. And with that's come a real kind of cozy, I want to be cozier and earthier. And for the past few months anyway, I've been really interested in linen clothing and more kind of handmade style garments. And I've really noticed, for instance, like I was walking along Swanston Street in Melbourne, which is like main thoroughfare. It's really busy, in the middle of the city in the central business district, the CBD, where I work, or did work until recently. And tons of people in suits and women in like leather jackets and, you know, city wear of all different shapes and sizes. And then walking past me with this lady who was just like head to toe in linen with a baby strapped to her back, and just so earthy and beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh, of all the people that I'm just so inspired by in this crowd, she just kind of shone with her own style and just the kind of ease and earthiness of her style. And that got me really thinking about why I move away from kind of what I really enjoy to wear, because I don't maybe think it's so attractive, or isn't kind of edgy enough or funky enough. I have some kind of weird ideas about attractiveness, I think, that I'm still holding on to a little bit. So it's been really amazing to see this really incredible feed from Slow Fashion October, and also Close Knit. Annie of Close Knit is a real inspiration for me as well, just with what she wears and what she, her lifestyle, for instance, and the values that she kind of honours with fashion and her lifestyle. And there's so many amazing people who sew and create their own garments on Instagram. If you're ever searching for inspiration, go check it out there. It's so beautiful. So that's been really inspiring me to really make some of my own clothes and stop purchasing. To be honest, I've got a lot of clothes already, so the main thing for me, I think, that I want to take from this is to really slow down on what I'm purchasing, and also to be very, very not cautious, but just to make decisions more slowly when it comes to what I create as well. If I'm making garments, is it a colour that I think I'll wear a lot that will go in my wardrobe? Like, I can imagine things I'm going to wear it with. If the fabric is itchy, will I actually wear it? Like that kind of thing. And yeah, I wanted to share with you some sewing patterns that I've been really inspired to make in the coming months. And also I wanted to share with you that I'm on Pinterest. I'll link it down below to the link to this board, but I have a natural clothes inspiration board that I've been adding to for the past kind of 6 months maybe. But there's some really beautiful imagery, but also links to sewing patterns from indie designers. So yeah, if you're looking for inspiration, you might find something there. But some of the sewing patterns that I wanted to share with you guys are, I've got 3 that I'm really looking forward to making in the near future. The first one is the Watson bra by Cloth Habit. I'll pop some images in just here. Yeah, so this is an amazing pattern. I haven't worn underwear bras for probably a couple of years now. All the bras that I purchase are relatively kind of soft bras and have no underwiring. So the Watson bra is like my perfect bra, and it's actually it's getting easier, but it's pretty hard still to find nice, pretty non-underwire bras. So I'm really excited to have found this pattern. There's lots of amazing Watson bras that are being made at the moment, and I can't wait to make my own. I'm not sure yet what fabric I need to purchase. I haven't properly looked into it. I've already purchased the pattern. I purchased it a couple of months ago now, but I need to get hold of some of the fabrics. I also need to service my sewing machine. There's a sewing machine that I can use here for now, but yeah, my sewing machine needs a bit of love. The second pattern that I really want to make is the sway dress, which is a pattern by Paper Cut Patterns. I've seen lots of different sway dresses and sway tops, which is a hack of the pattern, on Instagram, especially in the Slow Fashion October, and it's just a really beautiful wearable pattern. The ones that I like the most, I think, are the linen dresses and tops that I've seen out of this, and I can't wait to go to the city in a couple of weeks and pick up some linen. There's a beautiful fabric shop called The Fabric Store, and also Tessutis Fabrics, which sell lots of linens, ridiculously expensive. Linen is, I haven't found linen for less than $30 a metre in Australia. So if there's anybody who knows where you can get cheaper linen from in Australia, please let me know. But yeah, I think I might purchase a metre or two of that and make myself a dress or a top. And finally, the third pattern that I really want to make is the Anna dress, which is a by hand London pattern. The Anna dress, I think I heard of it first from Katie on the Inside Number 23 podcast. It's a gorgeous pattern. It kind of has like a cropped kind of sleeve, I guess you'd call it, just here, and then it's quite fitted, and then it kind of goes, it flows kind of from the waist, and it has a slit down the side, and it's just the most beautiful pattern. I'd love to find some rayon or some form of silky cotton blend to make a dress out of that one, because it's so beautiful. And yeah, again, check out my Pinterest board if you'd like any inspiration. Pinterest is amazing for kind of patterns, sewing pattern inspiration, and also knitting patterns inspiration. And yeah, I think that's everything that I've got to share this week. Thank you so much for listening and being here. I wanted to say also that so I have well exceeded the 500 subscribers. I don't know what happened, but in the last couple of weeks I've gone from like 470 maybe subscribers to over 570 or 580. And that's super exciting. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say that I'm in the process of buying some skeins of yarn to hand dye, and my plan of action is I want to be able to make a project bag and also hand dye a skein of yarn as a giveaway. So I'm going to hold off on that until those are created so I can share you guys that, but I haven't forgotten about my giveaway. I just wanted to give you a little heads up of that. There's going to be a little bit of a hold off until I can get everything in place to do that. And then those will be a giveaway for my 500 plus subscribers giveaway, my first giveaway on the podcast. So yeah, thank you so much for being with me. I love to receive your messages on Instagram, Ravelry. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this podcast on my blog, which is creativenaturally.wordpress.com. And there's also some really lovely interviews there. The most recent one was from Annie of Close Knit, which is a lovely interview. So you definitely go and check that one out. And until then, happy knitting, and I hope you guys are enjoying your springs and your autumns wherever you are in the world. And bye for now.